Okay, so the demo starts off actually really similar to what we saw in the 2015 trailer. A lot of those scenes are still preserved in the game, and while a lot of people were like, "Oh man, they got rid of all of the work that they did from CyberConnect 2," doesn't look like it, because there is a lot. There's a lot that they ended up being fairly similar to that trailer. However, it was similar but different because there was new voice acting. Characters were emoting in much different ways. So I'll kind of set up the entire situation that happens at the beginning of this thing. Pretty much the camera zoops down, the train parks, Jesse and Wedge come out and they kick the guards, and then Barrett says, "Get down here, rookie, we have a job to do," or something along those lines. Cloud jumps out, the music crescendos as he puts his sword in his back, and then the camera zooms around his head, and then guards run in. So the guards start running in just like the original game. They avoid Barrett. Like, the same shit happens. The guards run down, Barrett runs past, and he says, "Take care of him." Because Cloud, in this situation, as they don't really describe much in the original game, he's the grunt. Cloud is the soldier for hire, while Biggs, Jesse, Wedge, and Barrett are there to take care of other things. So Cloud is like, "Oh, well, you go deal with this shit." So Cloud beats up the first couple of guys, you get a small tutorial, and then you run up, and it is now different. You don't run up and get like an immediate area, or like the gate where they're like, "What's your name?" You don't get that. You get like a subway entrance, like a train station entrance. All of the guys are lined up behind walls and shit. So you get Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, and they're like, "Get over here." And then they're lined up on a wall, and in the entrance there's a bunch of guards, and they sort of like whistle or something, and then all of the guards look towards Cloud, and Cloud's like, all the guards are like, "Get him!" And they run towards Cloud, and while they're running towards Cloud, all of the crew run inside and sneak past him.
Have fun.
And they fucking run in and give Cloud the dirty work. And Cloud's like, ugh, and he just starts whacking away at all the guys. So Cloud gets fucking ditched because this is Cloud's part of the job. So he starts whacking away at all the enemies. The enemies are doing the exact same shit that they do in the original FF7. They have like a club, they run up and they whack you, they have machine guns from the back and they shoot you, and they have grenades that they toss that have these like interactive little areas that explode. So everyone runs away and Cloud is left cleaning up the mess. So Cloud beats up all the guys and then follows up these stairs and runs into Wedge, sort of like messing around on a computer trying to hack the door. So Wedge and Jesse are up there trying to figure out how to open the door while Barrett's sitting aside. And Jesse has this Jesse is awesome. Like, she has a submachine gun and she's hitting on Cloud the whole time. So she's constantly like talking about how good Cloud looks and shit and where he came from, and then Wedge is worried if they can trust him, and they're kind of like sitting here figuring out the code for it, and Cloud's just like waiting for shit, just like kind of like bored and just sitting there. So the big guy comes up to Cloud and he's like, "I'm looking forward to working with you. I think we're doing the right thing here." And Cloud cuts him off. He's like, "Spare me. After this is over, we're never talking to each other ever again." Like, just cuts him off. And then he's like, the big dude's Wedge, sorry. So Wedge is like, "All right, nice talking with you." And he just like walks away. He jokingly talks to Jesse. "Wow, he's gonna be great to work with." And then Barrett starts talking to him. Barrett starts like saying like, you better be on our side during this. You start wearing their colors, like the colors of Shinra. And he's super worried about Cloud, and he's like very much like in Cloud's face this whole time. And Cloud's like, "Don't give me your speeches. I'm just here to get paid." As the door opens and everyone runs past, Cloud has like a flashback of some kind, and it's just like the first like moment. So he starts to get memories of stuff, and some weird music starts playing in the background. This is like really brief, and he's like confused by it. So confused that everyone has gone past him, and they're like, "Come on!" So then he looks up in the Mako reactor, and it's that fucking shot. And during all of this shit, the fucking music, dude. the music during this sequence, it has this like enigmatic tone of the original, like this theme. And then it goes to a moment of like, and it's like building up and building up and building up. And then it changes to something else when Cloud has this like freak out moment. And as everyone's gone, it like, and it kicks in. And as soon as he goes up, the theme kicks the fuck in and it comes back down. There is no loading during this. What happens is the music goes boom, and like Cloud runs forward and the music cuts to the Shinra theme, the actual like President Shinra theme. And you get the scene of Heidegger and President Shinra, and they're talking like this. And they're completely aware of what Avalanche is doing. So they're like, they have security cameras and they're watching Avalanche, and Heidegger's in the back, like describing what's going on. But you hear the same, oh God, what is it? This is the shit I was worried about. I was worried they didn't want to go too dark with the music and they were going to like replace this music. Nah, dude, they are going super dark. Like it is, everything about a lot of the music outside of like the battle themes is haunting and brooding. And that's the shit that you remember about FF7, is that the music is like, it's almost like gross in many ways. It really like leads you like with despair, which is great, because that's the world of Midgar. You're living in this corrupted fucking society that is destroying and taking advantage of and fucking its people over and fucking the planet over. So this is all tutorial. And this is where they start describing the fact that the gameplay has a mechanic that has not been shown in a lot of stuff yet, which is the fact that Cloud has multiple stances. He has a stance where he's sort of nimble and sort of normal, and then he has a stance where he's heavy brawler, where he can walk, but he changes like the way he's holding the sword, but he can only move at like a snail's pace. However, he goes into a counter hit state, and if he's hit during counter hit, he sort of parries and then whacks the shit out of enemies. So you get different combos during this, and you do more damage. However, if you're hit by like ranged attacks, or if you're hit by magic, you're knocked out of it, and you actually take more damage. So Cloud essentially has, a Punisher stance, and then a regular stance. I can't remember the name of the regular. And that's his gimmick. Like, Cloud has an actual, like, character gimmick to him. And every character in the game is going to have character gimmicks. Yeah, Punisher and Operative. They only really show Cloud's off in the demo. And his stance stuff is not even in the playable demo. But Barrett's gonna have unique stuff that he can do. Aerith is gonna have it, Tifa's gonna have it. They're not gonna have, I don't think it's going to be Operator or like, or Punisher mode. I think they're gonna have their own unique things that you can do on the fly to change what they can do. So you'll have a reason to sort of adjust on the fly how the character plays and play it a bit differently. So they describe that, and the character, he sort of like does these giant whacks and bigger attacks, and enemies come and attack him and he just knocks them away. So the guys like hit the walls and they ragdoll down and they fall down and shit. And so you get into this elevator, and Wedge is over there. Biggs is over there, cutting a giant hole down here out of like a gate, and he's like getting you guys a new path in. And then suddenly, like, all the other characters are trying to get into this gate, and then right as like Barrett's gone through and like Jesse's going through, and he's like, "You're not gonna have any problems with this, right?" And Cloud's like, "Just go on." And Cloud starts fighting all the enemies because this is Cloud's job. He's been hired to be the brute of the team. So you fight more enemies. The game gets you used to the fact that you're gonna have multiple enemies. There's like 6 fucking guards that you have to deal with. They're all throwing grenades at you. They're whacking you in the back, and Cloud's alone doing it all. So they cut open the grate. You follow through the grate, and then you start getting through, and you get to the first part that has a lot of different dialogue. A lot of the dialogue that's been up to this point is similar to the original, but has been absolutely expanded upon. So when you get into the elevator, that is notoriously the one that takes you down, like the big elevator where Jesse's in there and is piloting it, the dialogue is similar but not. So this is a spoiler alert. So as they're going down, Barrett has this like speech. He's got his like motivational speech for everybody, and he's explaining like what they're doing is so important and why they're doing it. And I remembered like a piece of dialogue specifically. He's got a line where he's like going on and he's getting super into it, and like Cloud and like Jesse like look at each other awkwardly because, and Jesse's like, oh, like he kind of really gets into this, and Barrett says something along the lines of like, we bleed red, the planet bleeds green. Every time we're sitting up here, they're sitting there sucking the blood out of the planet. Like, you breathe, you eat, you shit, the planet is being sucked dry. And then Cloud is just like, yikes, and Barrett gets in his face like, I'm serious, like he's mad at Cloud for not taking it seriously. And then they had a line of dialogue where it was described like Barrett says, I can hear the planet dying, I hear it every night. And Cloud's like, you actually hear that? He's like, of course I do. Like, it happens every night. And Cloud's like, you need to get help. And then Barrett gets in his face and is like, he's super fucking pissed off that Cloud's not taking this seriously. And then Jesse's like, oh god, and freaked out that Barrett's about to like slug Cloud or some shit. So the cool part is that you could feel the tension. Like, for all the parts that Cloud is here, he feels like the new guy that no one really trusts, that is obviously, like, you don't even know if he's the good guy or bad guy, even though we know. There's a lot of tension between everyone already. So Cloud is like a total asshole at this point, the way he should be. So Barrett says something else to him, and then Cloud's like, listen, I just want my money, and we need to get this done as soon as possible. So you're gonna get out of this elevator or what? So they leave the elevator, and then Cloud starts paying attention and around, and Barrett starts asking him, so what's up with this reactor? We're in Sector 5. We should be going this way, right? And then Cloud starts looking around. He's like, well, it should be this way, but this one's different. And then Barrett's like, I hired you so you knew how to do this. Like, what the hell's going on? Are you on our side or not? And he's like, I can't tell you. They build these at different times. And then like lasers start shooting at them, and suddenly they have like new security. And Barrett's like, why didn't you warn us? So everyone's on edge with Cloud. Like, the only one that kind of likes Cloud right now is Jessie, because she's like hitting on him all the time. And Barrett is just like on edge. And at this point, Barrett joins your party. So there's this point where Barrett is like aiming a gun at you right before the fight starts. And it looks like Barrett's about to shoot you. And Cloud just like stares at him. And Barrett shoots and actually shoots a laser cannon that was about to shoot him. And they start fighting together. So during this time, as this is happening, all of the banter is Cloud just like, you hired me to do this job, let me do my job. And like Barrett's trying to give him instructions on what to do. It's fucking awesome. Like, they are clearly butting heads really hard this entire time. And the characters feel very in character. Like, the more they start arguing, the more you start realizing like how much these characters are expanded upon from the previous. And is honestly one of my favorite goddamn parts of seeing these characters talk to each other. I've played not a ton of Square Enix games, but I've played a few over the past few years between, like, you know, Final Fantasy 15 and a few others where characters have dialogue. And I felt that they were getting a little far in FF15 because the characters were starting to feel a little organic, right? They were starting to feel like they actually sound like people and not weird anime robots. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it was the one thing I was worried the most about, because when you saw the characters talk to each other in the original FF7 trailer, the one that was from PlayStation 2015, I was like, they're kind of like anime robots again. And I don't know if I hope that, like, I was kind of worried that they're gonna turn these characters sort of into like some sort of like kind of generic aspect that a lot of characters have when they talk in games now, especially from Japan. That is absolutely not anything you need to worry about. You do not. Whoever they have on translation, whoever they have on scenario writing and dialogue, everyone that is doing this is paying attention to how the characters should be and how they should be acting with each other. And it is very organic. Pretty much you get a lot of exposition between Cloud and Barrett when all this shit is going on. And there's a lot of story that's going on just between them fighting with each other. And I didn't really hear much that was like, it was just the beginning, but I didn't hear much that was doubled over or much that was like repeated in this time frame. So there was a lot of discussing when Cloud and Barrett are working together at the start, they're very apathetic towards each other, and by the time they're halfway through the boss fight, they're kind of on each other's side because they're looking after each other. Like they're shooting each other down when they get caught, and they actually have like, you know, like thanks, like, you know, for doing stuff. They evolve a little bit during the beginning once they complete the mission together, which is cool. You can expect all the dialogue sequences from the original FF7 to hopefully be like this. Like, you're gonna have these characters sort of talking to each other on a very human level, which is what I like about the original FF7. Like, the way it's written in the original 7 is that the characters feel like people, instead of a lot of games past where the characters don't really feel like people. They feel like, you know, just characters for the sake of having character. That is one of the best things that I saw throughout this gameplay demo, because after that part, it pretty much gets into, you gotta go down the reactor a little bit more, and then you find, you know, where the gameplay demo picks up, which is what we played a whole bunch of. Oh, the lips match the English perfectly. The emotion in the faces, like the lips match, like... So I'm gonna say this, the gameplay is super smooth. There was an issue at the Square Enix booth when looking at the game. The sharpness on the monitors was set so high it caused an insane amount of aliasing on the characters. They had frame interpolation and all the dumb shit on the TVs was turned up to the maximum. So it was like trying to emulate 60, and it was trash. When I saw this game played on a screen in front of me, and I'm like, so is this a video? And they were playing on a PS4 Pro. So this was actually a live demo that they were playing. And I noticed because sometimes like enemies would walk into things and they wouldn't do that in a demo because it didn't have any of those aliasing issues. The anti-aliasing looked pretty goddamn effective, and this portion of the demo was running pretty much 30 FPS. To me, it appeared that they locked the frame rate at 30 for this demo, and what they were playing on the floor was like an unlocked, potentially earlier version of the boss fight of the game. This demo was so polished, with the different mechanics that they are, like the early game mechanics with the way the characters look. There was no loading. Like, you press start, it goes into the star field, it zooms down on Aerith, the train goes in, and from that point forward, there was no loading of any kind. So anytime the game kicked in, you were watching a cutscene, and the cutscene dynamically transitioned into gameplay. Like, the camera would zoom around Cloud as he pulled his sword out, and as it went around him, you're fighting. You're like, oh shit, wow. And that was the same thing when you went into the next cutscene. It would go, like, you're running up the stairs and it enters a cutscene, and then the characters are talking, and then enemies come out, camera pans around, Cloud says, like, oh, there's a great moment as everyone's going through the grate. Everyone's like climbing through, and they're like, Cloud, you got this, right? You got this. And then they all leave him again. One of the guards says, stop right there. Another one's like, you don't stand a chance. And Cloud's like, that's my line. And he pulls out the sword, and it's like this whoosh, 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 like 3-shot. And after like the camera, it zooms around him, and all the guys are like running at him, and the music kicks in. I'm like, okay. Fucking okay. Like, he's like, that's my line. Boom, boom, boom. And there's like, these cinematic transitions are fucking everywhere. So, what I got from watching this, he's a bit of a dork. Like, Cloud is a bit of a dork. What I got from watching this sequence of the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, the bombing run, was that this shit was so polished. I cannot recall any Square Enix game, and I don't play all of them, but I play like some of them, and I pay attention. I have never seen any Square Enix game on this level of polish. Like, even if you mean like the beginning of Final Fantasy XIII, when that looked really impressive when it first came out, right? I've never seen any Square Enix game on this level of polish and trying to impress you in its first mission outside of the first bombing run in FF7. Because the first bombing run in FF7 sold people like 22 years ago. That shit is what, like, you played that demo and it was like, holy fuck. By polish, I mean audio. I mean animations. I mean the way the combat looked, the way like things were transitioning from one to the other, the way there was no loading, the way the characters spoke to each other, the way every single time something happened, the music would linger down in slow moments and then pick back up for a cinematic thing, and then the camera would zoom the fuck back around. Like, everything about it felt so... It felt like they spent a year. It felt like they spent like maybe a year and a half just on the bombing run. Like, I'm not even shitting you. Like, I've seen a lot of video game development and worked on games, and I know how long this shit takes. The presentation and polish that they put into this bombing run looked like they probably spent a year and a half on this shit. And even more so than the demo that they had on the floor, because the demo that they had on the floor had some frame rate issues. It obviously like didn't run a solid 30 the whole time. This one felt like they figured stuff out. And in my opinion, I know this was probably done a long time ago, that they've just been doing small things to fix it. But what to me it feels like, they're like, okay, so how is this game gonna be? Well, you know what? Let's spend like a year. Let's spend like 1 year doing the bombing run and figure out what we want Final Fantasy VII to be. They come up with this bombing run and it's super cinematic and all the characters are talking to each other, and it is obviously like very much taking advantage of you being a Final Fantasy VII fan and taking every opportunity possible to pull out a heartstring in some way. To sort of, you remember this, you remember that, remember how it was like this? Well, now it's like this. It takes as many moments as it possibly can to be, if like you love FF7, then this is how the game's going to be. In my opinion, they sort of had this bombing run and they were like, this is how we want the game to be. And I'm hoping that that was the basis for the future of the game, because it's actually my biggest worry that how the hell does the rest of the game match this? Like, how the hell does the rest of the game match this level of quality? I don't know. Because once you actually get to the boss fight, I got to play the boss fight again and the multiple fights on the way down. I got to confirm there is fleeing. You can run away from fights. You pretty much just run in the opposite direction. Enemies will chase you for a while, and if they're slow, you will successfully run away and they'll return back to their positions. There was no victory fanfare, however, it was the bombing run, so the music of the Mako reactor, which is the same as the original, and it's really good. Like, I noticed a lot of stuff with music, and especially with the 4-tier boss fight, which is the Guardian Scorpion. When you do moves, the music like kicks in. For example, I was in tier 3 of the boss fight, and the boss theme, which is a super crazy fucking like symphonic orchestra like with guitar version of the boss fight. In fact, we can actually probably look it up on YouTube. I think Famitsu was the only people that were able to get footage. There was this moment where I did a special move with Barret, and then I switched over to Cloud as it was going in slow motion, and I did Cloud's cross slash. And as Cloud was like charging cross slash, this fucking choir came on. Like, a choir was singing in the background as it went boom, boom, boom. And then Barret blows the fucking, like, I was like, holy mother of God, dude. Like, this is insane. Like, it is so action-packed that it's absolutely insane. And I was paying attention to it even more now. And yes, because I was better at it, I wasn't using any of the stop time. I wasn't using the game to sort of like stop the menu and then pick things. I wasn't doing that anymore. I was just doing the shortcuts. Unfortunately, there's only so many shortcuts per character. There was like 4 per Barret and Cloud. So instead of constantly slowing the game down and going into that slow-mo stuff, they said they specifically put the game, like that slow-mo thing where you're able to pause the game and look around at the action and see all that cool shit. They put that in the game for people that sort of enjoyed the original FF7, as we predicted, that enjoy the fact that you can put the game on active or passive. Because you can play the game actively normally, or you can play it passively by activating this menu. So holy shit, dude, I played it without the menu, and it was a fucking action game. Like, I was playing, like, because you're at the beginning of the game, you only get so much available to you. I was using Stinger actively, I was using this move, I was dodging this way, I was going into, like, all this different stuff. Every time a character was getting away, I was switching to Barret and then shooting this way. I'm just, like, sitting here like the fucking controller, and this is me just boom, 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 boom. Like, I'm always doing something with the controllers and trying to get the characters going. So when you're playing the game, it's like playing the beginning part of like a Devil May Cry. It's like an action game. So I'm like, holy shit, man. But if you don't want to play it like an action game, you don't have to, and that's what they were actually explaining in this demo, that you can just play it normally. You can play it like a similar, slower pace, like people sort of liked in the original FF7 if you want to. So yeah, Cloud literally has a Stinger attack, he literally has all this other stuff, so all I'll say is we noticed some things in the game that seemed to be combos that didn't specifically give you, like, because obviously the playable demo didn't have any flourishes, but when Cloud would do a weapon skill, for example, and then you would slow time by pressing R2 and switch to Barret right as Cloud is doing his weapon skill, so he's in the background going in slow motion running at the opponent, and then I choose a weapon skill for Barret, like his multi-shot, and then they start executing at the same time, it looked like it did more stagger damage than it normally does. So you seemingly get benefits from comboing into each other at the same time. Currently in the game, there's no UI for it, so it doesn't say like combo or if you go into each other. There's none of that shit yet. But I asked the developers, I'm like, I kind of noticed that when I comboed a weapon skill from one character to the other, and I slowed down time and I did, Barret's right after Cloud's, it seemed to do amplified damage. I'm like, is there like a combo system in the game? And they're like, this is the first day we've had to the first event that we're actually showing off the mechanics of the game. And you already saw a mechanic in here that is not even on the show floor. So the guy that I was talking to was like, don't worry, we have a lot more to show off when it comes to mechanics and gameplay in the future. So it already seemed like he was like, sort of hinting at like, oh, you're noticing some stuff, but we are not talking about that. So I can't confirm whether or not that's happening, but it definitely seemed like with the way the game is setting things up and you're allowed to slow-mo into the next character, if you're able to set up Cloud knocking some guy into the air and then Barret shoots him up in the sky and then Tifa would jump up and and you're gonna get bonuses and stagger bonuses and like, holy shit, man. Like, there is definitely opportunities there. There's probably materia opportunities for that in the future. They didn't confirm any of that. I'm not like the one to actually break this information. All I can tell you is an observation that I made when I was playing. It definitely feels like the game is opening up here for a bit more. And this is the tutorial. Like, that's exactly it, Red Clock. It is so fucking ambitious. Like, that's the problem, is that the game and its scope, and every time characters talk to each other, it's actually voice acted now. Like, it's ridiculously ambitious. Like, I can't imagine the whole game being this way. Like, it was, and I don't mean to sound like cheesy here. It almost felt too good. Like, I can't believe what I was seeing in the first beginning of the demo, much less what I played with the boss fight. I don't believe it. Like, I almost don't believe that you can make a full 40-hour game be on a even fraction of the quality of what that beginning bombing run is. And if it is, I don't know. I can't process that through my head if the whole game is like this. Like, I don't know. And you're not even talking to Aerith yet. Like, you're not even going through Wall Market and doing this stuff. Like, you're not even seeing like what most of, I mean, I have expanded my pretty much everything that is happening to Final Fantasy VII that they've announced over E3, I predicted back in 2015. And almost anyone you talk to that has played the game walks out and they're just like, holy fuck, everyone asks each other at E3, did you play Final Fantasy VII? Like, did you play this? Did you see this? Like, everyone's fucking talking about the game at E3 because not many people got to play it, and it's ridiculously hard to play. Like, it was so hard to get tickets for this thing. The doors opened this morning for the general public, and it was a fucking madhouse. Like, I had never seen lines so long for anything at E3. It was fucking insane. I highly encourage you, don't let me to be the one to tell you what the game is like. If there's an opportunity, if it's like at a Comic-Con and you're close to a Comic-Con, if Square's going to be at PAX or some shit, if you know that FF7 is going to be playable in some way and you give a shit in any way, or you like FF7 and you want to play the game, please, dear God, just go play it. Because it is so much easier to talk to people that have played it to sort of describe this thing, because this is a common thing. Anyone that has played the game that is describing it to other people sounds insane. And they're just like, no, it's not that good. Like, it's not that crazy. Like, whatever. Like, everyone like sort of scoffs at it. And then the more people go and play it, the more people were like, you hear people like fucking gushing at each other on the show floor and shit. I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like, I really don't. If they're able to reach this level of quality throughout the whole game and this level of polish, I don't know how that's possible. Number one. And number two, if the boss fights are able to be on a similar level as this shit, then I don't... I'm beyond happy. It's more than I ever wanted. How the fuck are they doing this? Like, why is it better than all the other Final Fantasy games? Why is it more engaging, and why is the combat and everything so precise and slick, and everything is so like streamlined but easy to use but still has depth? And this is how good the dialogue is. You're sitting and you're about to go down with Barrett, and Jesse's like, well, there's the reactor, go take care of it, boys. And she like sitting there on the side, she has like her machine gun, and she's just sitting there like waiting, because fucking Jesse's super cool in this shit, right? She's fucking like, she's probably like my favorite character in this whole thing at the moment. So she's sitting there waiting, and you could just go down and, you know, follow the ladder and keep going down. Or you could talk to Jessie, and she's like, oh, you're talking to me instead of finishing the mission? Well, the reactor's down there, so why don't you go blow her mind? And I'm like, wow, she just made, I'm gonna blow up the reactor pun. Wow. She literally had that line of dialogue. She's like, oh, I appreciate you talking to me. Well, how about you go down there and blow her mind? I'm like, the dialogue is fucking awesome. Like, the characters talk to each other like they're people. Like, it's fucking super cool. It's the best I've ever seen Final Fantasy characters ever talk to each other. It's genuinely great. And everyone sort of talks like that. Everyone talks like they're fucking cool. Like, they have characters. Even the moments, even the moments where like Wedge was talking, and I think Jesse says something like, I hope he's as great to work with as he's as good to look at. And she was Jesse's like hitting on Cloud like this whole fucking time, and she's always like, you take care of it. Like, she's super fucking cool. That's like the person that's writing this shit is a competent writer of character dialogue, but also played FF7, and has also consulted a lot of people that played FF7, and is doing their best to preserve the characters as much as possible. And that's the thing I was worried about the most. Like, I'm not worried about how the game looks. I ain't worried how the game is going to be visually. Square does visuals just fine. That's the last thing I'm worried about. I was worried about the gameplay being a little bit too much like FF15 or Kingdom Hearts, and I was worried about the way the characters were going to be portrayed, especially based on the old trailer. The old PSX trailer. I am not worried anymore. It's better than I ever thought it could be. Especially after Kingdom Hearts 3, and you see the way characters sort of talk to each other in that game, and it's like everyone has 3 seconds of like a dialogue and then a 3-second waiting period, so that you can hope to process the stupid, inane bullshit that comes out of every character's mouth in Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm sorry if you like that game, and then the next character talks. I got 4 hours into the game and I was done. After that experience, I was like, I'm a little worried. After seeing the bombing run in full, after playing the demo multiple times now, I am not worried at all. I am extremely excited. Like, I don't think a presentation for a game for a single player game has impressed me this much at E3 in a very long time. And it is definitely complemented the fact that Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. I'm very critical of FF7. I love its story and I love its characters. And they seem to be doing... They're going above and beyond, is what I feel. And what I've seen. Way above and beyond. I feel like it's 1997 all over again. I really do. I feel like people just walked into E3 and they played the bombing run for the first time, and they were blown away by FF7. And it feels like it's the exact same shit all over again. And I just pray to God. I just RNGesus pray that Square Enix, it's 2019. I pray that Square Enix releases the bombing run demo. Because that's what they did for FF7 back in the day. Capcom released a Resident Evil 2 demo, similar to RE2 back in the day. And I don't want to sound like a crazy buffoon anymore talking about this shit. I don't. I want other people to experience it. I don't want to be one of the few people that got to see the full bombing run and how the characters interact and how the game is, the presentation and the polish of what they showed. I don't want that. I don't want to be the only one of the few ones that's able to discuss this shit because it hasn't been discussed in this detail yet. I really, really, really want other people to have that experience, and not just the boss fight, because the boss fight is just a small portion of the build-up that they have that leads up to this shit. I really want other people to experience it. So, please, for the love of God, chat, if you get the opportunity and you care any slight fucks about this game, there's going to be, I'm already warning you, this game is going to have insane fucking lines every single place it's going to be at because there's a lot of FF7 fans. But do your best to get there early and try to get tickets for a presentation or whatever, whenever they do it. If they do it at other places, please. The best thing they can do is let other people fucking experience this. I really don't want to be describing this game like a crazy goddamn person that I sound like I am. I was beyond impressed. Like I could not fucking believe it.